is the Rangers Journal Night.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Journal. I'm your host, Ross Graham, this evening, and I'm joined by two esteemed guests to talk through both Oscar Cortes and Ianis Hagi. First of all, Scotty, how are you keeping?
Hi, not bad at all, Ross. Not bad at all. Happy I was
Good.
able to get my run done earlier on so I could go on tonight. Should be an interesting topic.
I think so. And Billy, how are you, mate? Is the sun shining where you are?
The sun has been shining all day, mate. It's I think I've probably got a bit of sunstroke, to be honest with you. That's maybe why I'm feeling a bit rubbish.
Well, yes. I mean, it takes something to get some sunstroke in Scotland, I think. So that's one for the scrapbook, I think. Look, thanks everyone for joining us this evening. We've got quite an interesting topic to get through. Initially, we were just planning on talking through, I guess, Ianis Hagi. And no, it wasn't a spelling error in the title of this pod. It is tin openers that we're going to be talking about. But also with the news of Oscar Cortes signing another 1 year loan deal with an obligation to buy after that. I think the time scale that permanent deal will last for is TBC at the minute, but I think it's being mooted around 3 or 4 years. So very exciting. And because that's hot off the press, let's get straight into, I guess, Oscar Cortes. Only played 6 games for us, Scotty, scored a great goal. What was your kind of initial thoughts on him when he first came in the door?
When he first came in the door, I thought, this is my Ryan Kent replacement. He looks kind of a similar version of Kent, except I would say he was faster and he's better at getting by a man, what I would say.
Yeah.
What I did notice about him, though, is he tended to kind of fade in and out of matches, which is okay for a young player. Overall, I'm really, really happy with his signing, Ross, because he's got a lot for me. He can be a man. He's got an eye for a pass. He's got a goal in him. He's literally could be a tin opener for Rangers next season.
Yeah, I think for so long now we've been crying out for a winger that has an end product, haven't we? Someone that can either get to the byline and get a good ball in, or commits a defender, or pulls defenders double up on him, or he can finish. Billy, what's your take on it?
I'm really happy that he's come back. Well, basically, he's going to be our player for 5 years, I guess, if you look at it that way. A year loan and then obligation to buy. He looked. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a kind of the jury's out. I think he did enough to show he's got enough to make it here. He maybe has to win over some people because it was just a short period he played before he got injured. So it's thumbs up from me. I was impressed with him. I know what Scott is saying about drifting in and out of matches. That is a kind of young player, maybe even a young creative player type of trait. So over the moon with the news. I was listening to another podcast and it kind of broke live at the time. So I felt like it was like the good old days of getting
moon landing sort of thing.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's sorry, Billy. I think it's a super signing. I think you look at the player trading model, and also you look at the 5 players that have exited, and I guess Cortes fits nicely into that sort of player trading model. You mentioned there that we've potentially got him for 5 years, and he's 20 years old. So, I mean, the guy's already shown in 6 games, probably more than a lot of the wingers that we've had recently, I would say, in terms of his kind of output and that ceiling of the level that he can perform at. So, super exciting one. Scotty, are you expecting more established wingers to come in as well? Or do you think Cortes, now that he's kind of had his boots on the turf at Ibrox, will be probably a first choice winger for Rangers next season?
I think out of the 3 loan signings, just to come away from the topic for 2 wee seconds, I think out of the 3 loan signings, I think the only one that's going to be permanent has been made now. Obviously, me and you had a chat about Seema earlier on. I just don't think it's within my budget just now. But in terms of, is it going to be the only signing, it's really difficult to tell because you don't know who we're going to be linked to next. There's obviously a boy from South Africa as well. Is it Moko thing?
I think
he scored in a cup final the other day. So it's interesting, but it's a good start. It's definitely a good start, Ross. Cortes, we know what he can bring. And I'm very excited about watching him next season. I think he's going to get bums off the seats.
I think that's something we've been crying out for since probably Ryan Kent in that first couple of seasons that he had. Billy, do you see him coming in as a project player, or do you think he's coming in with a view to, we've clearly got a a budget set aside for when that deal does become permanent. If it is the sort of 4 million mark that is being mooted, it's quite a substantial outlay for a 20-year-old.
It is. I could see. I don't know if I see ourselves spending a lot more on another winger, but possibly a loan deal with maybe someone a bit more experienced that they could maybe learn from a wee bit before maybe taking over that main winger next season. I know there was a comment there about him. He can play across the front, which kind of reminds me a bit like Lovenkrands. Lovenkrands could play as a number 9 as well as a winger. So if he's got those qualities, I'm over the moon about that as well. But he's I mean, that's a great age to get him a talent like that as well, because you know, even if we do, like, let's say we keep a hold of him for 3-4 years, we're still got a 23, 24-year-old to sell. You're thinking, if all goes to our hopes and plans, that we can make an awful lot of money off him, and he's still at that age that he could then go again to another big move and would get another kind of sell on for him. So it's all good.
Yeah, I think it's very encouraging, isn't it, when you see the caliber, and even a lot of these will be rumors and speculation, but even if there's a bit of truth in some of these guys, the level that we're looking at, the age that we're looking at, is something that Rangers haven't done quite this well in years gone by. So there's always been rumors of X, Y, and Z, but when it comes to actually signing players, I think we've never really been able to fit this kind of trading model actually into our squad and our setup. Clearly, the balance then is, how do you bring in new experienced players? That we talk about these leaders that have left. You can't have a team of 19, 20-year-old prospects without the stability around them of experience, of having, played that song before and been there and done it. So it'll be interesting to see who we bring in. Some really good comments coming in so far. I think JD's one about Ridvan and Hefte feeding Cortes on the left sounds good to me. I think that's we definitely saw that him and Ridvan seemed to connect very well on that left-hand side. And I think there was a few times he actually played Borna and we were kind of screaming at the TV, why is he not playing Ridvan, when clearly they were seeming to link up pretty well. So really exciting times ahead, I think. And look, if we can get this guy playing up to the standard that he was in those 6-7 games, I think it was called out there in the comments as well that 3 of those games he got man of the match. So clearly had an immediate impact. So very exciting to see what other players we get in the door to kind of supplement him.
Definitely.
Cool. So on to Ianis Hagi then. I think somewhat of a conundrum lies afoot for Clement. It's one of those strange ones, isn't it, where you think, do we look back with rose-tinted glasses on this player? He gave us some great times against Braga. And he played very well in our European run. Scotty, before I go into the detail here, before we just go into the stats and kind of look at it a bit more, under the skin, what's your kind of, when you think of Ianis Hagi playing for Rangers, what kind of crosses your mind?
First thing that comes to my mind is he's better than Todd Cantwell and Tom Lawrence. First thing that comes to my mind. Ianis Hagi is going to get you numbers. I think, I'm not sure how long his contract is till, Ross. Is it 2027 maybe? I think off the top of my head.
It could be. I can check on that.
I think if Hagi can come in next season and we know we can get money back for him just now, right? There's going to be a lot of comments coming in tonight because his topic's been done to death, etc. But it's not been done under a Rangers journal, so we're going to try and do it our way. We're going to take a format, we're going to bend it, twist it, and see what everybody thinks. Ianis Hagi for me is, if you can get one good season out of him because of his name, you're going to get double the value. If Rangers want to sell him this summer, they can go ahead and do it, but they'll get their money back. They got for Genk, no problem, just because of his name alone. But in terms of Hagi's ability, we've all seen what he can do over an 18-month spell before he picked up a bad injury. I'm all for him staying. I hope the managers get the same opinion, to be honest, Ross.
Yeah. Billy, what kind of springs to mind when you think of Ianis Hagi in a Rangers shirt?
I mean, this is Ibrox baby, I think, is the thing that comes to mind with the Braga game. I mean, he dragged us back into that single-handedly. I just remember the reports before when he just signed from other news sources that how good he was at youth level, and we're one I watch really to have got him because he was such a great prospect. The thing that's laid against him is his pace. I don't necessarily know if that's a huge problem when you're playing most of the game in the final third, and you don't have to beat a man for pace really. You just have to be a bit quick with your feet, and he is quick with his feet, and he's quick-witted as well, if that's the right term. He's got a, probably the best football brain certainly out of those players Scott mentioned there. Both footed as well, takes penalties with both foot. I love that about him. So I was happy with his initial loan, and then really happy when he signed. Probably didn't do as much as I'd hoped, but I still think he's. And remember when he came back the beginning of this season, and Beale hadn't really been playing him, and it came in for a match, and I think he was man of the match in that game. That just shows you this kind of short-sightedness of Beale not using him there. And if the manager does decide that he needs to go this summer, then he's more aware of his skill set and what he needs in the team than I am. But I would hope he's still got a place in that team because I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, I think one thing, and a lot of people are calling out, rightly so, in the chat about pace and lack of pace. But what you tend to find with players that don't have pace but are still at a high level is they can stay at a high level for a longer period of time. They don't tend to lose that attribute because they've never really had it. So their craft becomes different. Their tin opener ability, if you want to call it that, and I think that's what Hagi brings, remains. And that brain, that footballing brain, can grow and develop. Let me bring up some stats from his first spell at Rangers. So clearly came in as quite a young lad, looks very fresh faced there. And I think, Billy, you rightly said he came in with quite a name for himself. A bit of stature behind him. Quite a lot of clubs had been looking at or talking about Ianis Hagi, and I think it was presented certainly in the media as a big coup for us to get a player of this caliber in. And I think he was certainly someone that we saw would have a high ceiling of value in years to come. So 33 appearances, of which 23 were starts, 7 goals, 11 assists in that period of time. So 18 goal contributions, 109 minutes per goal contribution is a super stat for a midfielder. 110 minutes per goal contributions, very strong pass accuracy, and I think his key attribute is his chance creation, right? When we think of Ianis Hagi, we think of that player who can unlock a defense, break the lines, to use an overused term, and is a creative player in that area. Do you think, Scotty, that one of the challenges about Ianis Hagi is finding his best position? And that's kind of somewhere that's something that has cropped up a few times, especially in that first season. I think of Gerrard being there, and I think he played out on the left, played out on the right, tried him in a 10, played him as a kind of false 9 at times. What's your thoughts?
I think it's at one point under Bailey was playing as an 8 as well, was he not? He's got versatility. For me, it's the number 10 position for him, though. Purely out of them, 33 appearances, 7 goals and 11 assists. We've not had numbers like that since he was here. It's as easy as that. Todd Cantwell's too inconsistent. Tom Lawrence is too inconsistent. 81.7% pass accuracy, chances created, 1.5 chances a match. He's got something that we don't have currently in this team, and that is versatility. Now, when he played on the right under Steven Gerrard, they done a good job on the right hand side, playing that kind of false 9 role that Aribo. A false 10, that Aribo kind of took up on the right hand side as well. He's got a certain degree of physicality about him as well, going by the stats here. 2 fouls, 1 per 90, and he's won nearly half his duels. So he's not a player that, like, take Cantwell, for example. He's not a player like Cantwell who's going to throw his toys out of pram, get booked, and then go and put a post on Insta. Or like Tom Lawrence has got a really, really bad habit of disappearing in and out of matches as such. Hagi, for me, what he brings as a squad player is far too crucial. And I think we would all agree across the panel just now, Ross, that we could have done with him last season.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when you look at the options that were taken away, like your Arfield, people like that who can come on, be creative and have the ability to pull something out of a hat, pull a rabbit out of a hat when it's needed the most, in these close games, or you think even the Scottish Cup final there, we really could have done with someone like that to come on and change the way the game was going, or just add something different, or commit defenders or whatever. Billy, what clearly the stats speak for themselves, and it was a great breakthrough season for him at Ibrox. I think it's fair to say. I think he had some great performances in Europe and domestically. Do you think positionally it was tough to fit him in, and that's potentially why Beale looked at getting rid of him?
Yeah, I mean, we think back to the conversation we probably all had. I know we probably didn't know each other back then, but it was always, where's his best position? Because he's not really got the pace to be a winger. And I'm going to probably take a bit of slack or flack, whatever you call it, but I'm not comparing these two people as players. But Davy Cooper didn't have a lot of pace, but he had a lot of skill and he had a football brain. And we could sure do with someone who kind of has the kind of attributes similar to him in the team. You can't have enough good players. Obviously, you can maybe have a two-bloated squad, but I don't think we can have enough of players like Ianis Hagi in the squad. And maybe you're not starting him every game. I don't think he's a kind of super sub type thing, but he might be one of these people that once the game gets stretched a bit and the teams get to tire, there's more kind of space for his creativity and his past thinking as well, thinking ahead for that. I thought was excellent when he was here as well, and he can also take a set piece. So
It's true.
We don't quite know what's happening with Tavernier, but if say Tavernier had to go, then we're going to need someone who can kind of replicate those numbers either from the penalty spot or from outside the box with free kicks, and he was probably the best, and maybe you could say second best to Tavernier at the time. But he's not shy of confidence. He clearly wasn't happy that he wasn't getting used at the beginning of the season, but I think that I personally, like Scott, think number 10. Certainly, Clement wants to play with wingers in a number 10, and I think he would suit the role. It's, if not every single game, then certainly a lot of games. But there's also, we don't lose the thought. So I think I've had one other point. Sorry, it might come back to me, but yeah, I would like to see him in the squad. Yeah, sorry, my point was, I think he wasn't getting played because purely who Beale brought in. Beale brought in Cantwell. And he'd already had Lawrence there as well, so he kind of was forced not to play him at that number 10 because you couldn't have his star signing, especially the first few months that he had, and then that whole pre-season last season, we're thinking the team's going to get built around him. And again, he's tried to play Lammers in the number 10 position again, so it puts him down the pecking order. But I think Hagi has done more than enough to deserve another shot at it.
Do you think, Scott, that it's a fair comparison to look at Lammers and Hagi and say, look, they're both a similar style of player in the sense that they play both footed. They're not blessed with outright pace. They play anywhere across 10 right wing, left wing, so just sitting behind the defenders. And I guess under Beale, you could argue Hagi had minimal output.
Yeah, I would agree with you in the comparison, but I would also disagree in the sense of Lammers says that he is a natural number 9. That is his position. And he's went to the Eredivisie and scored 9 and 11 or 12 goal contributions, whatever it was. He's went to Eredivisie and had a very good second half of the season for Utrecht. And Rangers are probably, I would say, get a wee bit more than the money back. I think that's maybe fair for a guy in that league. So I don't think Lammers was a natural 10. I think if he'd maybe been trained that way when he was younger, I think he could have been, but because he's got all the attributes in terms of being both footed, get an eye for a pass, etc. But he always seemed to get, I don't know, it's almost as if he get marked out the game. Whereas anytime I seen Hagi in a Rangers jersey, he would find space somewhere. It's weird. Todd Cantwell's also very good at that, finding space, and that's what your 10 kind of needs to do. It needs to be able to roam and create play, make space, play good passes in behind for striker, etc., etc. I think Hagi's already proven that he's a much better player for Rangers than Lammers.
Can I just take a point of sorry, Ross? Just Curry's mentioned something in the comments that you'd rather have Hagi on the bench at the cup final than Scott Wright, and that sums up why was Scott Wright not sent away on loan and we keep Ianis Hagi there. It's
Michael Beale on it.
Yeah, but it's crazy to me because he's a far superior player. Okay, he's not got the pace that maybe Scott Wright does, but why was he sent away?
Yeah, I think it's different, obviously nuances in each one of those. I think Wright was on the verge of going, wasn't he, and came back and then kind of just fell back into the squad naturally, and then through a very depleted, injury-stricken squad, Wright became a necessity, and I think probably something similar along those lines with Matondo, and then before you know it, they're kind of only options that we've got due to whatever reasons. I was just going to ask you, Billy, just before I move on to Hagi's time at Alaves, what do you think? You mentioned free kicks and the option that he offers there. What do you think Hagi brings based on the way he played in that first spell that we don't have already in the team now?
Just as I was saying earlier on, the footballing brain, the knowing the wee passes to do. And we don't need a Todd Cantwell doing no look passes all the time. Like that doesn't mean you're a great player. It's the intelligent passes. He's an intelligent player, and I just think like you see chance creations and things like that. This is what we're missing. Someone setting up real, maybe I don't know what this XG. I'm not really clued up in XG thing, but what like high XG chances. He's more able to provide that than I think anybody else in the squad at the moment, at least.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. But guys, thanks for joining us on the Rangers Journal. It'd be great to get your thoughts on Ianis Hagi. We covered off Oscar Cortes and his signing of a 1-year loan deal with an obligation to buy. That's at the start of the video. So if you missed that, when we're finished, you can always go back on YouTube. Right, I'm going to move on to Ianis Hagi's time at Alaves. So obviously joined as a decision from Michael Beale, having come back from a substantial knee injury. It kept him out for over a year. I think there was a few setbacks in that period as well. So clearly for him, it was crucial that he came back to playing football, playing regular football at a good level. And obviously that was critical for Rangers as well. So obviously went there at 25. I think it's fair to say he beefed up a bit. I think if you look at the lad that he was before and kind of the lad there, I think he definitely put on a bit of muscle during his injury and his recovery from that period of time. Now, clearly playing in La Liga is a very different setup to playing in the SPFL, in the Scottish Premier League. But that being said, he still was able to play 22 times. Notably, his transfer market value had dropped off slightly, so clearly the time on the sidelines had contributed to that as well. But interestingly, his pass accuracy stayed at a very strong level and his chance creation actually increased. So whether or not he was just that slower pace of game out there that I think they tend to have helped him slightly, or whatever it was being, or the position he was being deployed in as that sort of number 10, you can see in the bottom right, more as an attacking midfielder, suited his game a bit more. Scotty, I just wanted to ask you before we kind of go into his time at Alaves, do you think that was the right time to send him out on loan, or do you think we should have kept him and let him, recuperate within the Rangers environment and keep him in that loop?
Oh, I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, Rose. I think if you look at our injury list in the season we've had, I think we would all, I think half the Rangers support would have been screaming for Hagi. There was that kind of cry in January to bring him back from Alaves because of the state of our squad. I mean, if you look at the injuries to the wingers situation to begin with, he would have played football 100%. He would have played games. We're not sure where Clermont and Todd Cantwell are. Would they have played in front of Todd Cantwell? It's also a big question that can get asked. So I think he would have made a positive contribution to Rangers last season.
Yeah. Billy, what's your take? Clearly, we could have done with the options, right? And I think that's probably the key thing. Do you think that sending him out on loan, having just come back from the injury, was the right thing to do to get minutes in his legs?
I can see the thinking. I don't think that's why he actually got sent out on loan. I think Beale took the huff with him because he kind of was called out for not getting minutes, I guess. So I think it was probably more of a I'm going to show you who's boss around here type of deal. No, I mean, yeah, I think he would have been better recuperating with us for a bit longer. Maybe the option, he could have maybe went out for 6 months later on if he wasn't getting the time. But you know, the Scott said the injuries we had, we could really been doing with them.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And the comment that was just put up there about, you know, getting rid of Sakala, Cholak, and obviously Hagi as well, 3 goal contributors, 3 players who can be that tin opener and create something out of nothing. So naivety probably shown at that stage. So look, let's move on to a bit of a comparison about Ianis Hagi and both Todd Cantwell and Tom Lawrence. Basically, 3 similar players in the sense that they would probably be that creative spark within the team, that number 10, the attacking midfielder, whatever you want to call it, but also could kind of play anywhere across that front line. And this is just Hagi's Rangers career. So across the 3.5 seasons, 99 appearances, 16 goals and 21 assists, which is 0.37 goal contributions per game, having also won a Scottish Premiership and a Scottish Cup, which I think is 2 things that probably stand out for me most on this page. Then you look at Cantwell, 64 appearances, 14 goals, 12 assists, which is a slightly higher goal contribution per game, interestingly enough. And having won the Scottish League Cup this season. Tom Lawrence, 41 appearances, 6 goals, 5 assists, albeit I think it's fair to say that Lawrence has been deployed in some slightly different positions to probably what Cantwell and Hagi would have been. Lawrence has often played that sort of number 8 role, sat in next to Lundstrom a few times this season. Scotty, what screams out to you there, mate?
It's kind of hard to tell, to be honest with you. The stats don't lie in terms of between Cantwell and Hagi. Cantwell's obviously had a much more kind of stable 18 months, I would say. Hagi was come back for an injury and he's been shipped out on loan to a different team in a different league, so it's hard. It's hard to kind of compare them properly, I would say. But you know, I'm just looking at it. I still think Hagi offers more, because if you think of how he plays football to begin with, it's kind of touch, pass, or it's just it's wee layoffs here and there. There's no kind of, he's just very quick and very decisive, and it's just down to having a very smart football and IQ. It's not really down to anything else. Comparing them to Tom Lawrence. Tom Lawrence is one for me that definitely needs to go this season. I don't think he's worth the wages we've got. I do think he's a good player. Really, really do think he's a good player, but I just don't think, between injuries and form and managerial changes, I don't think it's quite happened for him. And I think that Cantwell and Philippe Clement's relationship is a wee bit fraught, I think it would be fair to say, going by what we've seen at the end of the Scottish Cup final and stuff like that. But it's interesting. I just think, personally, taking the stats away from it, I just think Hagi's a better 10 for Rangers than any of the 3 rows, to be honest with you. But that's purely on the eye.
Yeah. Billy, just on that, and I'll get your thoughts on, I guess, these outputs in a second, just from what Scotty was saying. Do you think Hagi was playing in a better team than these 2, and therefore potentially accelerated a little more and looked a bit more of a sharper player when you've got your Aribos, your Moreloses and your Kents around you playing out of their skin?
You might have a point there that I never thought about, mate, to be honest with you. But yeah, you're probably right. He probably did play in a better team. Certainly the 55 season, he was playing in a better team. And then in the following season, you know, we get to Europa League final. So I don't think that our current team look anywhere near like doing anything like that. So that's why we're needing such big changes in the summer. I just don't want it to seem like because I agree with Scott. I don't want to be agreeing with Scott constantly, but what I would say differently is I'm not looking to get rid of Todd Cantwell either. I mean, I'd be happy for them both to still be there. I think Lawrence probably would be the one out of the 3 that I'd like to see move on, purely just because I don't think he's the right fit, like Scott's saying. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having Todd Cantwell and Ianis Hagi. The main thing is going to be that relationship that was mentioned between him and Clement.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Clement would have known about him from Belgium, I'm sure. Hagi, that is. Yeah. So hopefully he's got an idea of where he would like to play him, if they plan on keeping him. But no, I'd like both of them. I mean, yeah, Cantwell's looks a wee bit better. does that take away from Hagi if he played in a better team, or was it just other players contributing more than what is happening at the moment, and Cantwell's having to do more because no one else is? It's it's all.
Yeah,
I'm not clever enough to know the answer to all that.
it's hypothetical, isn't it?
Yeah,
Scotty,
yeah.
do you think if Cantwell had have gone into that team, the 55 team that Hagi was in, would be now sat here saying, something a little bit different?
I don't think. It's a difficult one. I'm trying not to get clipped here. I don't think Cantwell would have played under Gerrard, to be honest with you, Ross. I don't think Gerrard would have put up with Todd Cantwell and his stuff off the pitch. Don't get me wrong. It's not a taste. He's not. I'm not wanting to paint a picture that he's pure terrible. He's not out getting in trouble and all this. I mean, he posts the odd thing on Instagram like between shushburgers and all this rubbish, and I don't think that would have been accepted under Gerrard. So I don't think he would have played much. But then he also could have came in and you look at the other toss of the coin, he would have been absolutely brilliant. That team was it was like a machine that just kind of knew how to play football. It had a style. It had everything in terms of a structure at back, structure midfield, very possession-based type of play. They pressed when they had to. They knew, very tactically well drilled, I want to say. And as Todd Cantwell, can he be tactically drilled? That's something I'll ask you. Do you think that under Stevie G that he would have been able to play in that team?
I think, interestingly enough, and I'll in a roundabout way I'll answer your question. KW's put on the chat, I think Clement's frustration with Cantwell is I think he thinks he underperforms. I actually think that the frustration Clement has with Cantwell is that he is overperforming, and I'll explain why. I think Cantwell presses at the wrong times. I think he tries to look like he is the spearhead of Rangers, and I think he perhaps has a little bit of ego in there, in which he will break the when you're having a structured press as an example, you need to all know your element within that and your position within that. And chopping and changing and injuries won't have helped. But I think Cantwell will make those 30-yard runs to close someone down and leave gaps in behind him. I don't think it's his lack of willing. I think he almost goes against the kind of structure that Clement needs his team to have, both defensively and offensively. Which, look, don't get me wrong, you do need sometimes in an attacking way. You need someone who's going to be a bit of a maverick and beat one or two and maybe not play the 1-2, but, have a shot from distance and just mix it up a bit. But I think Clement's frustration is, especially when we've had a limited squad to play with, is that Cantwell's trying to do his own thing too much and not playing within the sort of the humbleness of a squad environment where you need to do exactly what the manager says if you're going to play a certain way. That would be my take on it. But going back to your question on Gerrard, I guess that probably falls into that. I think the team that we had at the time meant that you could have a luxury player like a Hagi. You could have someone that, do you know what, they might give the ball away 2 or 3 times, but Kamara's there. You've got Ryan Jack and Steve Davis next to him who will recover the ball and we press again and have that relentlessness you were talking about. So I think the team's very different in its setup because Cantwell could have given the ball away 2 or 3 times. But I don't think Cantwell would have been as much of a big presence in the team as he is now. He is one of the focal points of our team, whereas then he would have been one amongst a number of good players. So maybe that would have helped him, would be my thoughts. Just going back to a point that was made by Billy, and Billy, I'm just going to come back to you to ask you about it. You said there you'd be happy if Cantwell and Hagi both stayed. How do you think they'd feel about that? But given they're both vying for the same position, Hagi obviously wants to be playing, and we know what Cantwell can be like when he's not on that starting 11.
Surely they must know that we need 2 players in that position. So hopefully that either the manager can manage that a bit better with sharing the minutes out. But if either one of them think that they should be playing every single game over the other one, they need somebody to explain that that's not how it's going to work. But I think, meaning that they must both know that they're both professional players, that they're not going to be able to play every single game, and that each of them has different qualities that maybe complement a different type of game. So, I mean, Cantwell, hasn't done particularly great in the Old Firm games. Would that be a game he sits out or comes in the second half? Would not, but I guess it's hypothetical again. No, I think they'll be all right, mate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Cantwell, like, I don't think his comments or things on Instagram are to do with not wanting, being the only number 10 at the club. I think it's more to do with these, a bird in a cage can't fly comment. It's more to do with the amount of restrictions I think Clement's putting on his play that he's unhappy with, not necessarily that he's not the only number 10, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that probably ties into what I was saying there. He probably wants to go and flourish and have the freedom of Ibrox Park every Saturday or every other Saturday and
He's not going to
do
get it
what
with
he
this
wants to
manager.
do. You're not going to get it. And I think that's probably where the clashing of two different, mindsets are. Clearly, the way Clement's bringing players in now is that he wants them young. He wants them to sort of indoctrinate them in the way that we want to play, which is kind of possession based, but also, keeping them penned in and relentless in our approach, the wave after wave of attack that we've seen in years gone by.
If I can make one point, Ross.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've got such an overturn of staff, probably in the double figures in the playing staff. If we've got two that could stay and potentially be good players for us, but that's a position then we don't really need to worry about replacing. We've got both of these players under contract, so why not use them? They're both good players.
It's a great show. Scotty, what are your thoughts on that? We've got two players here who clearly the stats aren't terrible, but with the right players around them, they could probably be developed on further. Do you think we've answered our number 10 issue with these two?
Definitely. I think it's there. I think it's going to be very good competition for places. Like, I'm reading through comments and everybody's saying that Hagi's done and he's this and he's that. Like, the guy's not even arrived back in Scotland yet. Like, let him get in, let him get into pre-season. There might not even be teams that come in from because he hasn't been great at Alaves, as we've seen in the stats there. Let him come in, let him get settled, let him manager get a look at him. Let's be patient. As a support, we're not patient enough. In terms of him and Cantwell, I would be more than happy with they two. Still at the club, given what we know they can do. But it's Hagi's versatility in the wide areas. Like, we've still not really got that out and out right winger. We've got McCausland, and that's about it. Scott Wright is ineffective, inconsistent, good in flashes, but not good enough. Hagi can do that. What I would say to the comments is, like, go back and watch Hagi on YouTube playing for Rangers, and you'll get reminded why like we should give him another chance, because he's got tons and tons of ability. His mind is built for this team for me. His mind's built for beating a low block, Ross, being a possession-based dominant team.
Yeah.
I imagine he's going to play for Romania at the Euros. So say he goes there and has a great competition, we'll all be screaming for him to stay and not be sold.
It's a good point. I'm actually just double checking that they're actually at the Euros. Are they?
I'm sure they
yes, they are. They are. Sorry, any Romanians listening. Apologies. So yes, look, I think they're all good points, and I think when you think of a tin opener, someone who can create something out of nothing, whether it's a shot from distance, as we know he can do, or right foot, left foot, I think Ianis Hagi kind of fits that bill very well. I'm just going to quickly whip round before we move on to some recent transfer news. Scotty, is it stick or twist with Ianis Hagi?
Oh, stick, 100% for me. Unless we get a really good offer in that can give us something to play with in the transfer market, I think Rangers have got a really good player in the building and a manager that could potentially bring that out. There's something I'll ask you quickly, Ross. Do you think Hagi would suit Clement more tactically?
I think he is a very good fit for what Clement wants to achieve. I think someone mentioned it in the chat earlier. I'm sorry, I can't just quite remember who it was, but they said when you have quick players around him, you might not need him to have that level of pace. Mm-hmm. So if you think a 10 where you've got a Cortes, potentially Seema, I know there's been a bit of chat about that on there, and then a quick striker, he's the one that can play that ball in behind and receive it back, or he's the one that can sort of be the almost like a 10 pivot, if you see what I mean, and play across those. So for me, I think having the fact he's played in Belgium, there's a great connection there. The fact that he's got a great footballing brain and seems to be quite a humble guy will both fit really well in with what Clement wants, for sure.
I think what we need to remember is as well, this is a big rebuild we're going to go through. I think there's rumours that it's like 14 out and potentially 10, 11 in. You need guys in that knows the demand of playing for Rangers, don't you, Ross? You need
absolutely.
He's captain of Romania now, and we need leaders as well. Don't know what type of leader he is. I can't really get into that, but in terms of knowing the demands of the club and being able to play for Rangers, we know he can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Billy, stick or twist, mate?
Well, let me just say, first of all, I didn't mean to offend you if I did earlier on, Scott, saying I don't like agreeing with you. That's not what I meant. I just meant
no, not at all, mate. Not at all.
I don't want it to be a boring podcast where we're just agreeing with each other, but I'm just in full agreement with you on this one. He's got experience with us as well as international experience. If we were linked with him this summer, we'd be screaming to sign him. So bring him back. You know, we've still got time. I think it's 2026 actually his contract.
Yeah,
is up. So we've still got another 2 years with him, and if it doesn't work out, we can always kind of cash in at a later date. But for me, he needs to come back in and be part of the squad for next season. So stick for me, Ross.
Yeah, cool, guys and girls watching this. Please do stick in the chat just a word, stick or twist, and we'll count them up at the end. Scott will do a good job in the background counting those up. He'll have his fingers and toes out though, so any viewer discretion is advised. Look, just before we move on, we're just going to spend 5-10 minutes talking through a few rumours that we've heard and a few players that Kai has been diligently doing profiles on. If you haven't seen these before, they are well worth a watch. It's at Rangers Journal on Twitter. Kai's releasing these videos like hotcakes. God knows what his bandwidth is because he's firing these out like nobody's business. There was a couple of ones that I guess I wanted to cover off first. So obviously Cordoba seems as though he's going to be signing for Norwich for around 3.65 million euros, I think it is. Slightly disappointing when I think it's leaked that your kind of number one centre back target is not going to be coming to Rangers. Scotty, what's your take on it, mate?
I don't know. You don't know what you've got with Cordoba, so I've not really gave it a second thought, if that makes any sense. From his point of view, he's a Bulgarian centre back. He wants to get to he's not Bulgarian, he's Panamanian, sorry, but he wants to get English Premier League. Norwich have won the playoffs last year. They're a good outfit. They're going to offer him that route to potentially do it within 1 year. So I think that's the reason. This isn't because Rangers haven't made enough effort or we're not paying him enough money or whatever else, other excuses we're going to make up. I think it's purely because he wants to play the Premiership and he thinks English Championship's better for his career just now. So fair play, any hard feelings. I hope he's a good career, but I'll probably... I don't really watch much Championship football unless Leeds are playing, so I'll never see him. It's not as if it's somebody that we're all kind of getting excited about, or he's well known. He's a bit of a marquee name. He's not. He's a guy playing for Levski Sofia in the Bulgarian league. So I think just a wee bit of perspective on it. But we're going to do this all summer, Ross. We're going to miss transfer targets and we're going to get some. So, aye, that's me.
Billy, a bit disappointing. I've had to send my Rangers shirt back to the Rangers store because and get Cordoba taken off the back. So not that I had my heart set on it or anything. But what was your take on it, Billy?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I knew a lot about him. It's always disappointing to think you're getting up because we want to sign players, especially with the summer we're going to have. I don't necessarily think you can say he was our number one target that we've lost. It might just have been the guy that's available to sign just now, whereas these other players will be maybe at the Euros or they're waiting to see what other offers come in. So it might not have been a number one target, but disappointing to lose out on a sign, especially when you're like, I understand what Scott's saying, but it's Norwich. Like,
I know.
No offense to Norwich, but if you've got a team playing in the Europa League final within the last couple of years, and then you're playing in playoffs, and that's as good as it's really been, getting relegated and playing in playoffs. But yeah, I understand his thinking if he thinks that might be a better, because he could come to us for a year, and then a championship club might want to then a championship club might come into like a top position one, and they might think I'll just skip a year and just go straight to the Championship just now. So fair enough to him if that's what he wants.
Yeah.
And, I
and look, I
think
think
he's going to be playing for Man United then, or maybe he will actually. I don't think he's going to be playing for Man City.
Look, these things will happen, Scotty. I liked your sort of your contextual view on that these things will happen. I guess we've heard that player. Little do we know about the other players that are going on in the background, and those conversations are progressing well. One of those players potentially is Thomas Galdames from Godoy Cruz, a Chilean. I think he is an international now, who plays centre back and also left back. So feels like a similar type position that probably Cordoba would have fulfilled. Looks like an interesting prospect. I think he looks like a fiery, hot-headed South American, someone to get excited about, someone to scream at, but also someone to really get behind, and sort of, it's the sort of player that would come in and get Rangers into his blood straight away, and just, absolutely love the old firm games, and really, be crucial. Scotty, do you think that's the kind of player that Rangers fans want to see? Someone that's passionate, cares, and aggressive.
Definitely, and it's not somebody that we've seen. I couldn't tell you the last signing we had with a player like that. Had a bit of a hot head. Maybe Alfie, but Alfie wasn't he never really got his supporters on side of it, if you know what I mean. Alfie was more huffy. I want somebody with a bit of fight. It's an interesting point in the Gallant Few Daily News. Was it yesterday morning? No, it was a podcast Colin and Mason were on, and they were saying like, this boy's played in the Argentinian league now. Argentinian supporters isn't seeing you think of atmospheres at football matches. It's not very nice. Do you know what I mean? It can't be. No, we're talking about. See this guy getting booed off a park. It'll be like water off a duck's back to him. If he drops points at him next season or something like that, if he signs, obviously, he'll just be like, all right, okay. So he's got the necessary criteria in terms of the demands of the crowd. I don't think it will phase him as much. I've not watched much about him, but I quite like that he's a Chilean international. I quite like everything about him, if I'm being honest, Ross. I think he's a good height. He's 6 foot. He's fast. He can play left back or centre back. Again, that kind of covers you injury wise. I'm probably more excited about this guy than what I was about Cordoba, if I'm being honest. Just because it's something a wee bit different, and he's coming from a hostile kind of league. I don't know if that's fair to say. Am I being harsher?
Yeah. No.
I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be kind of intimidated coming to Rangers.
Yeah. Billy, do you think we've been craving for some, nutter centre back to come back and just tell them what's going on? Do you think we have? Am I the only one that wants this guy?
I definitely am, Ross. I'm craving for it.
As fans, there's nothing better than a South American hothead, is there? But
yes.
Whether he gets away with it in this league with the referees, that might be the worry, that he spends more time, in the stands than that. But I only heard about this rumour today, and it seems like the boy likes a tackle. And as Scott was saying, that he's not going to be phased. I always say it's water off a dog's back, mind you, but he's not going to be phased by the environment of Scottish football, even at Parkhead. So, no, would like to see this one come to fruition, because I'll be just suckers for like South American players that we want to sign them. But it's we'll be looking forward to that if that happens.
Ross, can I come back in there? No, I'll throw this one at you. Now imagine the allocations from the old firm from this season still applied to next season, right? And you've got a guy like Galdames who's played in the Argentinian league. He's went away to like Boca, Independiente, River Plate, all these massive clubs with hostile atmospheres. Do you think that guy's going to whimper at going to Celtic Park? Because I don't.
I think he'd relish it.
I
think
that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I think exactly that. We have missed aggression. I think it was on one of the previous pods, and we said we were talking about leadership, and I think it was someone who said we're just. It was your analogy, Billy. It's I think it's stuck with me. I think you talked about bumblebees or something that day, and you said
honeybees.
Honeybees, sorry,
are different than bumblebees.
Oh, I'm sorry. No offense, man.
But yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
And there's a level of kind of aggression and stuff that comes with that. But yeah, I think it'd be great. And speaking of it, there's another lad who I'm quietly excited about, and it's Damian Garcia who plays for Peñarol, and he's a Uruguayan under-20, I think, World Cup winner, who really stood out at that championship. So another one to watch. He's a centre midfielder. I've watched quite a bit of him on YouTube. Obviously, it's a bit of a tainted view of exactly what his kind of 90 minutes looks like, but seems like a deep lying midfielder and loves to spread the ball wide. Can pick out a pass and also break up play really nicely. Only 20 years old again, so kind of fits within the kind of the players that we're looking at. And the last one that I just wanted to talk through, lads, before we start to wrap things up, it was we won't talk about Ben Johnson on this one. There is a great piece on Kai's that Kai's done on Ben Johnson and some of the kind of positives and negatives that might bring. The player that I wanted to talk through was Ruel Walters. So this is kind of a new one that seems to have come out, I think, today or maybe yesterday. A young English, 19 years old, centre back / right back for Arsenal. Now he hasn't played a sort of 90 minutes for the first team yet, but he seems to be a very strong player. And I did see Zinchenko had written something very interesting about him, how he'd seen him in training and how formidable he was against some top pros that they've got at Arsenal. I guess, yeah, what's your take, Scotty? Look, that looks like an absolute. If Tav does go, that looks like someone that we can really get excited about as a potential long-term replacement for Tav.
Aye, definitely. Considering Dujon Sterling stepped in as CEO just now, I think we need to sign the right back, to be honest with you, Ross. I'm just pulling up some of the quotes now from the Arsenal players. What was it? This was Zinchenko. He says, I like so much centre-back Ruel. I think the qualities he's aggressive. I swear to God, one time he pushed Gabriel Jesus and I shoulder to shoulder, and it's not easy to push Gabriel's. He's very strong. He was confident in the ball afterwards. He kept the ball well. Wow, he impresses me, I think, the most. This is a player that we were talking about in my group chat earlier on. This is a kind of, we've not been using that cross-border rule enough.
Mm.
And if we can get this one in the door, it's another one with, this is what I was saying in previous pods about not going to South America, not going to the world too much, but finding a fine balance between guys that can come in who are British-based players, young British-based players, and can come in and make an impact. Be interesting to see what's going to happen with Tav if he does sign, if he's going to sign as a centre-back or a right-back. Again, it's giving you options. He's versatile. He'll know of the club. He'll know of the demand of the club. He'll play games. So it's another interesting link. I like the look of the boy Garcia that you mentioned earlier as well. Garcia looks like a specialist six. It looks like everything that John Lundstrom isn't. Not that I'm not into Lundstrom bash. I wish him all the best in his future, but I want to see something different in that number 6 role. And a young Uruguayan 20-year-old who was the standout at World Cup, 6 months left in his contract, won't come for a big fee. That's the kind of stuff I'm wanting to see. That's exciting. We just get the experience right, and I'll be a happy camper. But it's all good noises so far.
Yeah, I think so too. I think these are players that, and look, if these rumours that we've heard are true about Clement's ambition for the club to be a not a feeder club, but an area where players can come and learn how British football is played and learn the demands of British football before potentially taking a stepping stone elsewhere. I think he'd potentially use the term the Porto of Northern Europe as a style of club that he sees Rangers being. Then these sorts of players are, specifically the South Americans, are the sorts of ones that really fit within that criteria. Billy, Ruel Walters, he was new news to me. I've never heard the guy, but judging by some of the statements, this should surely bring excitement to us.
It certainly does, and as Scott has said, this is the cross-border thing that we really maybe could have been looking at more than we have done. How many times last season did we say, I wish we had 11 Dujon Sterlings? And if he's the type of player that's going to be able to come in and play 1, 2, 3, 4 positions. Now, obviously, we can't have 11 of these players. We need specialists and skillful players to set things up. Your Cantwells and Hagi types. But to get players like this in that can cover a multitude of positions, British based, I think it's brilliant. Yeah, I'm really hopeful. Well, I've only just heard about it this afternoon, but it was really exciting to hear about the link. So I hope there's something in it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And yeah, and I'm excited to see who else is being discussed behind the scenes from the players that are being touted and mooted. It seems like it's a really interesting and exciting crossroads, I think, for Rangers. It's fair to say. You see players leaving who have given a lot for the club, and you see this new generation, this new kind of breed of players coming through who potentially could be the next 5-10 years, maybe of our club. So it's really exciting to see this unfold. And obviously, with social media now, nothing can be escaped. So any little clip it from some guy stood on the side of the road in Bogota, Colombia, will be on Twitter in 3 or 4 minutes in no time.
Can I just say before you finish, Ross, when you were leading up to discussing who that player was, you were kind of built up a little bit, and I was like, oh, he's not going to say Ryan Kent, is he? Because Kai did do a thing on him, didn't he?
Yeah, Kai did a good piece on him. I could talk till the cows come home about Ryan Kent. Do you know what? I'm just going to give it 30 seconds of your time, Rangers Journal viewers. Ryan Kent was a very special player for me. The reason being, I got a feeling when he got the ball that he could beat any defender. He could commit any defender. And look, there was times when it all went painfully wrong and he didn't work hard enough and his mind was elsewhere and whatnot. And obviously this move hasn't worked out for him. Whether or not Ryan Kent is a viable option for Rangers, I very much doubt. But what I would say is that guy got me off my seat. And he was an exciting player to watch, albeit amongst a fantastic Rangers team at the time. But I don't really have a bad word for the guy. If it ever came to as an opportunity to get him back at a right price, I would jump at the chance personally. So that's my 2 pence. Be interesting to hear what your thoughts are, Billy. Would Ryan Kent be someone you'd like to see back in the royal blue?
I don't think so, mate, and I don't disagree with what you said, but I you know what? Just see his last little while with us, just looked like he couldn't care less about football anymore. So you know, it happens to boxers as well. They just don't want to be in the ring anymore. And it just doesn't look to me that he really wants to play football anymore. So that's really the main reason why it'll be a no for me. Can I just say to Curry, yes, of course I can. You can get in touch. I don't know through a chat or whatever. I'll leave. He knows what he asked. I just don't want to go too far up the.
I'll sort it out for you, Billy.
No worries, mate.
Scotty, do you think maybe? I don't want to dwell on Ryan Kent too much because I'm going to get excited. I'm going to have to start YouTubing him again and Dortmund away and all that. But if having been away and sampled whether or not the grass is greener, and now we kind of understands maybe a little bit more contextually what he had. Do you think we would ever take a chance on the lad again?
I can't see it, to be honest, Ross. I can't see it. I do think there's the door's slightly ajar for you, though, because I think Clement was manager at Club Brugge before Kent signed for us. Right. I would need to double check on that one, so it might be something. I think you're right, Scott. It might be something Clement wants to do, but I look at Oscar Cortes and he gives me the exact same feeling that Ryan Kent gave you. It gives you that excitement when he's on the ball because you know he can do something with it. I think, but what scunnered Ryan Kent towards the end was he was sick. Like every time he got the ball, there was 2 men on him. It was constantly getting man marked. So I think that kind of took the enjoyment out for him, if I'm being honest. But would I be against it? Probably 30%. I would quite like him because if you've got Cortes in one wing and Kent in the other, and Hagi in the 10 and Shankland up front, what a lineup!
It's definitely frightening, but I mean, this is all rose tinted glasses and looking back at the good stuff. There was a lot of stuff that he did badly as well. So, and I think someone just put in the chat there, judging by how Clement wants to play, does he want players with egos who want to do their free stuff, or does he want someone that comes in and can mold and shape? And I think we've kind of concluded today that probably some of those players wouldn't necessarily fit in that system. So interesting enough. Kent, a footballer who hates football, he's rather smoke vapes down the skate park. Well, Kyle, I'm gonna take your word on that and hope that you've got first-hand experience because I need to see a picture of that. Scotty, look, we're going to wrap up in a second. You've said that you'd want to keep Hagi on board. I think all 3 of us would say that. I don't know if you've got the results from the stick or twist, or whether or not we've got a firm answer from the. I would guess it's probably 50-50, something along those lines.
I think it ended up there was 12 twist and 10 stick.
Right.
Just from what I've seen, I would, as I've said, I'm banging a Hagi drum. I want him back, and I want to see what he can do under this manager. But if Rangers sell him, then I'll trust come on and Coppin.
Yeah, fair enough. And do you want to say thanks to the viewers for watching?
Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. Tune in again tomorrow night. I think it's at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Me and Mitch are going to be on. That'll be a laugh. Not decided what we're going to speak about yet. I think we're maybe going to do a quick summary of the season. Kind of speak about where it went wrong and what we kind of need to do to fix it going into next season. So tune in. That should be entertaining.
Yeah, that'll be a good one to watch. And Billy, you also said stick with Hagi, see what he can do for his next season. Any further thoughts or want to say goodbye?
No, I think we're fairly well covered it, mate. I would keep him around for probably a season at least. But if things aren't going well by Christmas time, we've probably got the option to maybe even sell then. But it's I hope he stays I hope he comes back and stays for another good few years, to be honest with you. But I also want to say thank you to everybody. I love reading the comments down the side. I can't always reply to every single one, but thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. It's we've had a great month last month with an increase in viewing figures. So really thank everybody that does tune in and does listen to and watch the videos even after when it's just on YouTube itself. So thanks everyone, guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Seems as though the Rangers Journal is going from strength to strength. If anyone ever has any feedback or thoughts on what we could do slightly differently or improve on, we're all ears. So please do shout out and reach out to us on that. The close season is exciting, and we're being linked with some really, prospects, shall we say, that could be Rangers players in the future, potentially next year, and for years to come. So that's really exciting. Hef Day's in the door. Cortes signs today. Will Hagi be part of the question? Who knows? Thanks for watching the Rangers Journal.